We live in a world that celebrates the idea of perfection, that loves to filter out flaws and make it seem like everybody else just has it all together except for us. But the truth is, insecurity affects everybody. No matter how successful you are, no matter how talented you are, no matter how powerful or wealthy you are. And so the real danger isn't just feeling insecure, it's pretending that we're not. Because when we hide our struggles, we actually give those struggles more power over us. But here's the good news, y'all. Honesty breaks the chains of insecurity. When we are willing to open up about our struggles, we actually invite healing, we invite freedom, and most importantly, y'all, we invite the power of God into the places that we are trying to hide. And so today, we're going to talk about why being honest about our struggles is so important, not just for ourselves, but also for those who are watching us. To do this, we have an incredible guest who will be joining us to talk about why honesty is so important to this journey. Hey y'all, real quick, I want to make sure that you know that if you enjoy my content, if you enjoy this podcast, if you even enjoy what I share on social media or in my e-newsletters, you need to become part of my Patreon community. My Patreon community is an exclusive community that will give you access to even more content that I make available publicly. You'll get early access to my podcasts on at least a monthly basis. I'm hosting a live Q&A to recap the conversations that I'm having, and you can join at different membership tiers depending on your budget, all right? So I want you to consider joining my Patreon community because I would love to connect with you in a deeper way. All right, now back to the conversation because it's gonna be good. So if you know anything about Christian hip hop, my guest is going to be so familiar to you because today we're going to get to talk to Lecrae. He is incredible, musically gifted, but beyond the music, he's also a man who has used his platform to share his faith and to reveal his real life. We're talking about struggles, we're talking about mistakes, lessons, the whole thing. But let me give you just a little bit of his bio, and this is literally scratching the surface. So he is a Grammy Award-winning artist. He is an author. He is a voice for authenticity, both in the space of faith as well as in culture. His books are raw, they're transparent, and they are powerful testimonies of what happens when we stop performing for approval and just start walking in God's grace. To give you an example, his book, Unashamed, took us deep into his personal journey of finding his identity beyond success and people's opinions. And then in the book, I Am Restored, he showed us what it looks like to heal from brokenness and trauma when we surrender to God. I could not think of a better person to have this conversation with than Lecrae. So Lecrae, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for having me on your wonderful platform.
Listen, when I was thinking about this season and how I really want to tackle insecurity and comparison and just all these issues of identity, you were the first person that came to mind for me to discuss this with because I think a lot of people feel like admitting their insecurities is somehow showing them as weak, showing them as unstable in some way. But you are one of the most transparent people that I know. You've used your platform to freely share your challenges. So as a matter of fact, in I Am Restored, you were brutally, brutally honest about your struggles with depression and doubt and identity. I want to ask this first question. What made you decide to share at this level of transparency when it would be so much easier to just keep it hidden?
That's a good question. I think a lot of times we are shackled by our own fear of being transparent, of what's going to happen to us. And in order for me to trust God in a deeper way, I had to relinquish that sense of control I had over my narrative and over everything and just rest in like, okay, well, if I really do believe God has me, I got to let go of trying to have all the control myself. And if I truly believe that my identity was something that I received and not something that I achieved, then I had to leave it in his hands and say, well, you're the one that gave me my sense of worth and value. So nothing can strip it away and take it away. So I need to be okay with putting it out there. And there's these like cycles that I think everybody goes through of you're going to be transparent, and then people are going to take advantage of that and they're going to abuse you, and then you're going to retreat, and then you're going to suffer in silence, and then you're going to say, I'm tired of suffering, I'm going to be transparent, and then people are going to abuse it, and then you're going to retreat, and then you're going to suffer in silence. And I was like, I'm breaking the cycle, and I'm going to just be transparent and let God give me what I need.
So let's kind of park there for a minute, because
Yeah.
you move between so many different worlds, whether it's
Hmm.
music, whether it's the church, whether it's business. Like, you just move into so many different spaces, and what that means is you can get criticism from all sides. So
Oh
how
yeah.
do you stay grounded in who you are when so many people have opinions about
Hmm.
you and what you say or don't say, do or don't do? Like, how do you stay grounded?
Woo! How much time do we have? My goodness. Um, so I remember, I'm gonna tell you a story. I remember being the best rapper in my school. Like, I would destroy everybody. I ate, eat, breathe, and sleep rap. And I'm at the lunch table one day, and everyone's like, "We got this new kid. His name is Steve. He can rap." And I was like, "There's no possible way Steve is better than me." So I'm not worried about it. And I get in there, and I meet Steve, and he's got a thick New York accent. So he's from New York, the birthplace of hip hop, where all rapping comes from. And Steve begins to rap, and as I'm listening to Steve, I realize this dude is way better than me. I've lost. He's using metaphors and similes and homonyms and antonyms and all types of stuff I've never heard. And that crushed me because my worth was connected to people's impression of me, and how good people thought I was. And for someone to be better than me meant that now the standard, I didn't meet their standard. And so their words now became like, my value and my worth. And so as a teenager, as a young person, I began to build my sense of worth and value off of other people's critiques and other people's praises. And so as an adult, you unknowingly walk into a situation where critiques and praises give you your sense of value and worth. And so when I was critiqued by the church, critiqued by the world, critiqued by the streets, critiqued by music, it just started to push me down into a sense of nothingness where I felt like I had no value and no worth. And so it really wasn't until I had to do some digging and say, wait, where does my worth come from? Like, what gives me a sense of meaning and purpose? And that was some soul work that I had to do. So, long answer to that is therapy. I spent a lot of time in therapy doing some soul work and doing some unpacking and unwiring and unlearning that my identity and my value is not based off the critiques of other people. And so now I know that's true, but I also know it bothers me sometimes. So I can't read certain things. Or if I know I said something that maybe people won't agree with, but I know I stand on it, I'm not gonna read what people have to say about that, because I don't their views on me don't give me a sense of purpose or worth or identity.
This is such rich wisdom. And I think what tends to happen is people assume that success somehow inoculates you against insecurity. When I think, in fact, success can end up like making you even more sensitive to people's thoughts and opinions, right? Because, like you
Hmm.
said, you start to really look at how other people think about you. One thing I would love for you to just speak on is sometimes people look at famous people and they just assume that you have no feelings, right?
Hmm.
Can you
Hmm.
talk about what it's like when you do the best that you know to do, and people make it their business to tear you down, not just behind your back to a couple people, but
Hmm.
like at scale.
Hmm.
What does that feel like? Give people a sense of that.
It hurts. It burns. I, you know what it is? People think when you are a public figure or a celebrity or whatnot that you're no longer human. You're
Right.
superhuman, right? Like our highest call is to be human,
Yeah.
not less than human and not superhuman.
Hmm.
And so if you don't humanize people, you're not allowing them to function at their highest capability.
Yeah.
When you superhumanize them or subhumanize them, it it puts them in a position where they can't be what they were made to be. So before I tell you how it affects me, let me just give you the best illustration, even in current media right now,
Hmm.
is LeBron James was heavily criticized about his son Bronny being in the NBA.
Hmm.
And recently, a sports commentator, Steve Smith, said LeBron made a mistake. He shouldn't have had his son in the NBA. And, you know, you would think LeBron James, 20-year veteran, been a celebrity for most of his life, his adult life, can handle, he's got billions. He's fine. And as soon as that commentator was on the sideline of a game, LeBron walked over to him and confronted him and said, "Leave my son alone."
Mm.
It, why would Superman be saying this to some regular human being? You're Superman, right? No,
Right.
he's human.
Yeah.
He's human. He's not more than and he's not less than.
Yeah.
And so it's going to hurt when we have become such a social media um, type of
Hmm.
population that we demean people and we don't have any sense of real interaction, and we can just say things we would never say in person.
Yeah.
And but those words still have power. The words aren't void of power just because you know you said it online. So
Hmm.
man, I've undergone a lot of therapy. I've had to realize these people's words are not the truth. Like I've had to reprogram my brain. Neuroplasticity is what the
Yeah.
scientists call it. Like I've had to change my brain from listening to so much negativity over time. I didn't know I wasn't supposed to read all those comments. I'm reading
Mm.
400 comments on one post that are telling me I'm the worst person in the world, and
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's not going to do any damage to me. And it
Yeah.
was ridiculous.
Something that the way I've learned to try to live my life is, and I think this is how you learn to pay it forward. You pay the pain forward. Is like when I experience pain, what I try to do is I try to make the intention that I will
Mm-hmm.
never inflict this on somebody else. And I think what
Mm-hmm.
happens though is sometimes when we are wounded and we don't
Mm-hmm.
treat the wound, we end up wounding people the way that we were wounded.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so grateful that you've been in therapy and I'm so grateful that you've been processing through it, because what that means is you're now aware. Like I would guess that you're probably not going to go on somebody's post and be like, let me tell you why you're the worst person in the world, because you've been through it. And so
Right.
you're like sensitive to it. Even before I get to the other questions, I would love to know how have these experiences changed the way that you interact with other people, and even the way that maybe you communicate displeasure with other
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, you know what? I'm way more empathetic than I've ever been in my life.
Mm.
My level of empathy and just like realizing I don't know the full story is just different. You know, it's like I'm driving. My wife has road rage, and when I drive with her, these people. This if you don't, why are they doing? What is wrong with this person? And what are you doing? And and because of what I've experienced and the growth that I've had, I can now calmly tell my wife, "Hey, babe, maybe they're late for a job interview they really need. Hey, babe, maybe they just lost somebody and they're in a daze right now and they don't know what planet they're on." And so it's given me a different level of empathy and just trying to believe the best about people because I don't know. And
Yeah.
I don't want to assume your motive. I don't want to assume your intentions. I want to believe the best about you and leave room for the best possible scenario to be true and not the worst.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good, Lecrae. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Now I want to pivot a little bit to just talk about identity, because I think sometimes people think that look, we all have a past. Some of us even have a present, okay? But we all have a past. And we sometimes think that our past disqualifies us from being used by God.
Mm,
You've been so transparent about your own past. So my question is, how
mhm.
did you come to embrace that part of you as part of your identity, recognizing that God doesn't use the perfect, he uses the
Mm.
willing? How did you get there?
Oh, you know what? It's subconsciously, we all, oh, not all, but a lot of us, I know myself included, pick up the Bible and we believe that the Bible is full of superheroes and then one super duper hero.
Right.
Instead of realizing the Bible is just a bunch of ragtag, riffraff, messed up people and one perfect person out
Ooh,
of all of them,
ooh, that's good.
right? So,
That's good.
so we subconsciously start believing that David is this amazing character and Abraham and Moses, and we're not recognizing the humanity of them. Matter of fact,
Yeah.
that's really what God is trying to show us is
Yeah.
how broken they are so that you can have hope in your raggedy life.
Hmm.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so for me, if I were to get on here and I were to tell you, hey, just being honest with you, um, I had an affair with another man's wife
Hmm.
and I was caught and it wasn't good. Um, on top of that, he came home and I panicked, and in a panic, I I took his life. You would say I'm a horrible person.
Hmm. You are disqualified
There's no
completely.
way I should be doing
Yep.
leadership in any capacity,
Mm-mm.
and yet and still, this is the person who wrote most of the
Woo!
Psalms in the scripture. This is the person that God said, "This is a man after my
After
own
my
heart."
own heart. Yep.
Right. So it like if I were to tell you, hey, I am a widow and I need my inheritance, and so I'm gonna sleep with my former father-in-law in order to make sure I have a baby. You would say, "What the heck is wrong with you, girl? You better trust God." But yet, that's what Tamar did.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And God uses it. And so I think the thing is, it's not a license to be wild. It's really a permission to embrace grace and embrace love and to be gracious with your own past and to believe that God can use you. It's to believe that, man, wow, you really are a redeemer. So I say all that to say, we can go down the line. This is after meeting Jesus. Drank it, smoked it, popped it, fought, uh, pornography. You go down the list. I did it.
Hmm.
And yet God still saw fit to use me in whatever capacity. And so he didn't use a perfect person. He used a person who was willing to be perfected.
Hey, listen, I'm inserting myself in this conversation for just a minute because if you're enjoying this conversation and if you enjoy the many conversations that I host through my podcast, I want to invite you to join me for my free virtual masterclass, How to Bounce Back Better. My mission in life is to help you and people like you discover the power within you to not just go through stuff, not just survive, but I want you to learn how to grow through stuff, how to thrive. How to Bounce Back Better is an hour-long virtual masterclass, and I offer multiple sessions every single week. If you want to register, all you have to do is head over to nonajones.com, and you will see a big link, a big button that says free masterclass. Just click the button, and you can sign up today. I want to see you in the next masterclass because I promise you there are tools, tactics, strategies, and tips that have helped me build resilience that I want to give to you. So again, head over to nonajones.com to click the big free masterclass button and get signed up today. All right, now back to the conversation. Whew. So this is good. As you were sharing, Lecrae, I got a verse of scripture in my mind, and I think it may be in Galatians, that says, "If a brother or sister is caught in a trespass, you who are spiritual, restore such a one
Hmm.
in a spirit of meekness, being careful lest you also be tempted." And
Yes.
there's several parts in there that are interesting. The first of which says that if they're caught in this sin, they're caught in this issue. It says, "You who are spiritual, restore them." We do a
Mm.
really great job of condemning, and I've thought so many years. I'm like, man, why is there so much condemnation and not so much restoration? And I think the reason is because the caveat is you who are spiritual. We lack
Mm.
so much spirituality in the body
Mm.
of Christ. Our first compulsion is to condemn. Our first
Mm-hmm.
compulsion is to write off
Mm-hmm.
because we are not spiritual. When you are spiritual, it gets back to empathy that you were talking about. When you
Mm-hmm.
are spiritual, you realize, wait a minute, I've been forgiven of so much. How dare I have the gall to convict somebody of something that, frankly, I could be guilty of if I was only in their shoes,
That's
you
right,
know?
boy. You
And
better talk
so
that talk.
I
Hmm.
think that what you're describing, and I hope that people really get this, is the sense that, look, when you know what you've been brought through and you know where you come from,
Mm-hmm.
it shouldn't make you hide, it should make you
Mm-hmm.
grateful.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
are your thoughts on
absolutely.
that?
Yeah. So I totally agree with you. I think what tends to happen in our journey, I think there's three stages of our spiritual journey, right? That
Mhm.
people tend to experience. And we usually cap out on the third stage. The first stage is awakening. You met God. Oh my God, he's so good. He's so real. I love God. Second stage is development. Okay, I met God. I got to learn everything I can about him. You're trying to change your mental maps to learn everything you can about God. Third stage is productivity. Now I got to be productive for the kingdom. And it's as if you forgot before you were awakened because now you're like, it's all about productivity. Go, go. You're a mountaintop
Mhm.
Christian, right? And in that mountaintop time period, you don't have a lot of empathy because you're just focused on where everyone needs to be
Oof.
and not where people have been. All you see is mountaintops. You don't see valleys, but valleys are going to come. And unfortunately, a lot of Christians cap out when they hit a valley. You're going to hit a valley. You're going to hit a wall. And when people hit walls, they say, oh my God, I don't know what else to do. So they go back to the remedial thing of just doing the things that worked when they were immature young Christians, and they never learned to mature to become spiritual, which is what I would say the fourth stage is. It's doing that inner soul work. When you start really digging into who you are and what's going on inside of you, you realize, oh, I'm jacked up. Oh, I'm
Mm-hmm.
broken. Oh, I have no room to condemn a soul. And you realize, see, stage one, two, and three, it's all about you getting yourself somewhere else. Like, I got to read this and then I'm going to grow. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this Bible study. I'm going to do this prayer. I'm going to go sing. And when you get to stage four, when it's that internal soul work, you realize, oh, there's nothing I can do but lay myself on the train tracks of faith. God, you got to work this, get this stuff out of me. All I can do is be vulnerable and put myself here. And it might take years. I can't control the timeline. Like, there's no book on lust that's going to make me bound. And now I'm healed.
Yep.
It's God having to work through me being faithful. And people don't get there. So they just condemn or they hide the brokenness and that brokenness that that exists in them. In order to feel better about their own brokenness, they got to condemn somebody else who's worse as far as they're concerned. So,
Man, that's rich. I think sometimes, especially as I watch what's happening in our culture now, and how quickly, like, I'm sure you're aware of this because you are very much so a student of culture. But like, there is this move now that's basically saying that empathy is a sin. There's this move
sheesh.
now that's saying that empathy is toxic,
Hmm.
and I really believe that where that comes from, it speaks to what you were just saying is I have to find a way to hide my brokenness. I have to find a way to hide my faults and my frailties. And so the only way I can express empathy is I have to be able to see myself in your shoes. I have to be able to actually, like, I'm not in your shoes, but I have to see myself in your shoes. But in order to see
Hmm.
myself in your shoes, I have to recognize that I'm not perfect. And so
Hmm.
instead of being empathetic and seeing myself in your shoes, I'm just going to say that I'm perfect and there's nothing wrong
Hmm.
with me and there's nothing I need to change. Which speaks to, in your book, Unashamed, you talked about how you felt this need to prove yourself. Like,
Hmm.
where did that come from? This sense that
Huh.
I have to prove myself, I have to live up to something. Where'd that come from and how did you get over that?
I mean, I think initially it came from being abandoned by my father.
Mm.
My father abandoned my family before I was 3 years old. So not having a checkup, not having a hey son, how you doing, and without realizing it, feeling as if that was my fault.
Mm.
And so that abandonment must have been my fault. And so I think I came to the conclusion that um, I needed approval to matter because
Yeah.
I don't want to feel that pain again of being abandoned. So I did something wrong to make him leave.
Mm.
So I got to do things right
Yeah.
so people won't leave me and leave me feeling like that again. And I wish I could go talk to that little boy and say, hey man, you are already fearfully and wonderfully made. You matter. You don't have to earn love. But I didn't know that. And so I spent a vast majority of my life trying to earn the approval of others so that I would not have to face abandonment. And unfortunately, it left a dent in my journey that I needed to be healed from.
What role do you think comparison played in that? Because I think insecurity, I believe, this is my own thought, but I believe that insecurity is the outgrowth of comparison. Because
Hmm.
if I don't have anything to compare myself to, then I just assume that all is well. And
Right.
so I just wonder how did that show up in your early years?
Yeah. I mean, comparison is um, probably how we tend to find our pecking order in society. Fortunately, we all live in a caste system or a class system, and comparison is how we figure out where we stand and who we are. We want to know how much this person makes so we can feel as if we're successful. The truth of the matter is, all you really need are your needs met and to be able to have a few desires. If you can do the things that you love to do, and have all of your needs met, you're fine. It's not until you learn that someone also gets to do what they want to do and has their needs met and they make more than you, then you're not fine. That's when it becomes to be a situation of like, wait, what? Um, so what tends to happen is we begin to compare our value, our capabilities to other people to get a sense of worth and purpose, and that's really not what we were designed for. So I think for me, it showed up in my life when people began to praise me for certain things, and the praise meant, okay, they're gonna stay. If I didn't beat this person in whatever, if I wasn't as handsome as them, if I wasn't as talented as them, if I wasn't as popular as them, then I was going to be rejected. And I don't want to be rejected. That's my fear. I don't want to be abandoned. I don't want to be alone. We're afraid of being alone.
Yeah.
And so we put on airs because we're afraid of being alone. But if you're really integrated with people who love you, they love you for you, not for what you can, what you're proving to yourself to be. I'm rambling, but this is another thing I just want to talk about because this killed me as a young man,
Mhm.
comparing myself to my girlfriend's former boyfriends or
Oof.
former partners and so on and so forth. Am I as good as them? Am I this as them? Am I that as them? And when you have an integrated, grace filled, unconditional relationship with somebody, the comparison thing is gone. It's like
Yes.
I know everything about you. You know what I mean? I've smelled you on your worst day, and I'm still here. You know what I mean? We all need that to a degree in order to be able to function.
Okay, so this, first of all, that is actually hilarious because I think that is so relatable. I think if we're honest, we all have some sort of personal benchmark, whether it is our partner's ex, maybe it is a colleague at work. It could be so many different people. So I want to make sure that people understand, like, look, y'all, that is normal, that is natural, that is human. And I thank you for being honest about that. You said something that triggered a question for me. So at this level of success, how do you guard your relationships? Like, how do you
Mm,
know that somebody is like connected to you for you as
mm,
opposed to for what you can do for them or give to them? Because I think
yeah,
the truth is, at any level, if somebody has anything, even if they just have time to give, you always run the risk of people exploiting that. So,
Yeah.
How do you make sure that the people who have access to you are actually deserving of that? What do you do? What are your
Yeah.
tactics?
I mean, first it's an internal battle, so I got to fight the internal, right? Like when I meet somebody, there's an internal battle of, well, I want them to like me because I'm awesome, right? So that there's the surface level. The thing you don't want in the long term is what you actually are craving in the short term. So I don't want them to just want me because I'm popular or whatever the case may be in the long term. I want them to really appreciate me. But in the short term, I mean, I do want her to be like, oh, he's cute. I want to hang out with him. That's what you do want, right? The problem is you're not fighting that. You want people to think you got money. That's why you drive that car. You want people to think you're fly. That's why you wear those clothes. You want people to think you're attractive. That's why you did all the things you did. But but you have to battle internally first and say, but that's not how I'm going to interact with them. I'm not going to interact with people in this transactional way that if you check this box, I'll check that box.
That's
So
good.
from then, after I check myself, then I interact with people in a way I approach them as a servant. Like, let me be a servant. And I just want to serve. I don't know how you see me. I don't know the perspective that you have of me. I just want to come in as I don't know if you know me or you don't know me. I'm just here. Hey, excuse me, your shoelace is untied, right? Hey, my kid goes to school with your kid, and that's how I'm coming as a servant. And I think over time you realize the people who are you are not here because of me. You're here because of your perception of me and who you think I am or what it seems to be that I am. And I got to ask myself again, is any of that my fault? And I don't know what I'm doing is creating a celebration behind me, but that's great. But I got to ask myself, is any of that my fault? Um, was I, did I come in there like, with my shades on, stepping out of the car, like I'm that guy? Well, I mean, I'm gonna have to expect some sense of people having a certain perception of me, right? If I come as a servant, then I've neutralized everything. So now you gotta meet me on the same grounds that I met you on. And if you choose not to do that, then I get it. Then this is probably not a relationship. Every relationship is a season, a reason, or a lifetime. This one ain't for a lifetime. It sure enough ain't,
Yep.
and then I move on. But I guard my kids, I guard my wife.
Yeah.
I don't really like, give a lot of, I let them be themselves and not Lecrae's kids or Lecrae's wife. I
Yeah.
want them to have that autonomy to be their own selves.
Thank you for sharing that. The reason why I wanted to even broach that subject is I think that sometimes insecurity can come from wanting so badly to be liked by people
Hmm.
that we either give them more than is wise,
Hmm.
or we allow them to use us in ways that are not healthy.
Whew.
And I think the way that you frame that is powerful in terms of just approaching it as serving. I think that's the right way. It's like, look, it's open-handed. I'm going to help you however I can. I'm not expecting anything from you or from this. But I'm just here. I'm here to serve. And I think that's powerful for people who are struggling in the area of relationships. Sometimes it's because we have expectations that may not be realistic. I want to end with this question, and I want you to think about, the people who are watching this or listening to this, they, I'm sure, have been as inspired by your story as I have. And maybe they're like, okay, yes, I want to go ahead and I want to be honest about my struggles, but there's maybe fear of what
Uh,
people will think, fear of what people will say. What's one final piece of encouragement that you'd be willing to give to them?
yeah, I mean, the scripture says that we overcome by our testimonies in the blood of the Lamb. You know what I'm saying? And so your testimony is how you take away the power of the accuser and all of the people who are following in the footsteps of the accuser. You remove that power because you're saying, hey, yeah, um, those are things that I've done. Those are things that I've said. And by his grace, but not for the blood of Jesus, that's where my chapter starts over. And so you can't hold me to a standard that even God is not holding me to. You're not God. So if God sees me as something wonderful and fearfully made, then how am I to see you as any less? Who do I think that I am? It's funny. There's a movie, uh, Eminem's movie called 8 Mile,
Uh-huh.
and it's a battle rap movie. And in a battle rap, you go against your opponent and you tear them down. And what Eminem does in that is he takes his legs out from under him before his opponent can even do it. He's like, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, oh, I'm this and I'm that and I did this and I did that. And now his opponent has no ammunition. You just took all the ammunition from them. And it's like, well, what can you accuse me of? What do you got on me? What do you got on me that I'm not forgiven for? What do you got? Bring it. Like, death, where's your sting? There's no sting you can give me that has not already been accounted for. So that's the big picture of it. Now, what I'm not saying is to tell all your business
Come
to
on.
everybody.
Come
That's
on.
that's what I'm not saying, because you cannot trust everyone with your vulnerability. Even the word vulnerable, right, assumes some sense of weakness and ability to take advantage of a person. And so to be vulnerable means that I have made myself available to be taken advantage of. And what I'm saying is that everyone does not deserve that level of vulnerability from you. Everyone, the interwebs don't need every detail of everything you got going on, especially if you're the type of person that knows you will be injured by the criticism that's going to come your way. I do not share anything that I am not prepared to deal with the ridicule and the criticism of, right? But I also do not hide things that I know God is telling me to be free of the condemnation for those particular things. And then this is the last thing I'll say is when you read the story of Hosea and Gomer, a lot of us feel like we are Hosea. A lot of us feel like we're going out there to just, man, I'm gonna try to do a good job and love somebody who's got some sketchy past and all those things. We ain't Hosea, we all Gomer. We all in these streets doing deeds we shouldn't be doing and prostituting our love that should be aimed at God and his people
That's
for the world.
that's good.
And so when Hosea goes and redeems her, he says, "You're my bride." By doing that, he's saying, "I don't care about what you did. You're someone new now. You're my wife." And that's what God does to us. He says, "I'm not worried about who you were. That person is dead. You are a new creation now." And you walk in that reality. And that's how we treat other people. So walk as a new creation. Don't share all your business,
Yeah.
but there's some things you need to share in order to loose the sense of condemnation that the accuser wants to keep bringing on your back so that you can have freedom.
Lecrae, this has been so, so, so powerful. I am personally encouraged by what you just said, and I know everyone watching and listening was too. I want to leave us with a scripture that I really want you to hold on to this week, and that is 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9, where the Apostle Paul says that God said to him, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me." The very thing that we are trying to hide is the place where God's power shows up most powerfully. And I want to encourage you to stop hiding so that you can start healing. If this episode blessed you, which I hope it did, I want you to please share it with a friend, share it with a family member, and just remember that God is for you, and He loves to use broken things and broken people to prove that He has the final say. So thank you for joining us, and we will see you again next time. Hey friend, thank you so much for listening and maybe even watching this episode of The Nona Jones Show. If you enjoyed this conversation, I want to encourage you to become a member of my Patreon community. You see, on Patreon, you're not only going to get full-length episodes of my podcast, but you will also get early access to any new content that I share, including new podcast episodes, sermons, even behind the scenes clips of my travels. And depending on the tier at which you join, you will also be invited to some live Q&A conversations that I have with my Patreon community. So what I want you to do is head over to patreon.com/Nona Not Nora to get signed up today. I want to see you in my community. Thanks for being here.